The small survey vessel Gentle Current drifted powerless in the emptiness between two far-off stars. Its once sleek pearl hull was fractured in multiple places, thin ribbons of luminous blue vapor spilling slowly into the endless dark. Inside, Captain Vel pressed his webbed palm against the console, watching the figures on his display sink lower and lower. "Life support is at 38%, he called to his navigator Finn across the silent bridge. "At this pace we have 6 hours left, maybe less." Vel shut his wide, dark eyes, forcing himself to remain steady. His people, the Aquari, were famed across the galaxy as serene and enlightened, dwellers of oceanic worlds who devoted their lives to study, art, and harmony. But never had they faced anything like this. The Gentle Current had been sent on what should have been a routine voyage. Their task was to chart new systems, searching for tranquil worlds and kind-hearted species that might one day join the Galactic Council. It was meant to be safe, uneventful work. But 3 days earlier, they had drifted into a hidden belt of drifting stone, unseen by their scanners. The jagged rocks had ripped through the vessel's skin like blades through cloth. Now with engines silent and there comes little more than static, they were stranded countless miles from any aid. "Captain," spoke Dr. K, the ship's healer, kneeling beside injured crew who had been struck down when the hull was torn. "The younglings are struggling to breathe. The air is becoming too thin." Vel's gaze turned toward the far corner of the bridge, where 5 young Aquari huddled quietly. Only children, brought to witness the wonders of discovery, yet their gills now fluttered desperately, fighting for what little oxygen remained. A crushing weight pressed against the captain's chest. These were his people, his duty. And he had to find a way to save them. "What about the distress beacon?" Finn asked, voice tight. "Can we send out a signal?" Vel gave a small nod and crossed to the comm station. The emergency transmitter still functioned, though only barely. When he brought it online, the display lit up with a chart of nearby systems. The computer's voice, calm and melodic, filled the bridge, scanning for possible rescue. "Please stand by." The crew gathered close as glowing points appeared across the star map, each one marking a known civilization. Most were far too distant. Others lacked the speed to reach them before their air failed. Then, suddenly, a new point pulsed on. The map closer than any other. The computer highlighted it in green. "Suitable rescue candidate detected. World designation, Earth. Species, human. Technology, advanced faster than light travel. Estimated arrival for rescue, 18 hours. Vel frowned as he studied the entry. "Earth? I've never heard of this planet." Finn's fingers raced across his console, pulling data from the Council archives. After a moment, his face drained of color. "Captain, I found it. But there's a problem." Vel's voice hardened. "What kind of problem?" Finn swallowed. "Earth is listed under restricted files, marked as extreme hazard. Death world classification. Contact strictly forbidden. Species considered highly dangerous." The bridge fell into heavy silence. Every Aquari knew what a death world meant, a place so brutal that its natives would evolve into predators, violent beyond reason. Dr. K's soft voice broke the stillness. "But Captain, look at their rating. Their technology index shows advanced medical systems and rescue capabilities." Vel stared at the glowing symbol on the map. The humans could reach them in 18 hours, just enough time to save his crew. But if they did, really were dangerous deathworlders. He looked around the bridge at his dying crew. The younglings were getting weaker by the minute. Several of his officers were unconscious from lack of oxygen. They did not have 18 hours to debate this decision. "Maybe the database is wrong," Vel said more to himself than to anyone else. "Any species advanced enough to travel between stars must be civilized. They must have learned to be peaceful like all council members." Finn nodded hopefully. Perhaps the classification is just old information, or maybe it is a mistake. Lie made. His choice. With shaking hands, he activated the distress beacon and aimed it toward Earth. The message would travel faster than light, reaching the human home world in just a few minutes. He carefully composed their plea for help. Emergency transmission. To planet Earth. This is Captain Vel of the research vessel Gentle Current. We are stranded in space with critical life support failure. Our position is, he read off their coordinates. We have 43 crew members aboard, including 5 younglings. We are scientists and explorers. We mean no harm to anyone. Please, if you can, hear this message. We desperately need rescue. Time remaining, approximately 6 hours. After he sent the message, Vel sat back in his chair and waited around. Vel tried to keep himself steady for the crew's sake, but the fear in their eyes was unmistakable. They were about to entrust their lives to strangers from a world labeled forbiddance. How long before we know if they'll answer? Dr. Key asked quietly. Vel exhaled slowly. If they received our signal and choose to respond within the hour, after that, 18 hours until arrival. The waiting was brutal. Every few minutes someone glanced at the life support gauge, watching the numbers sink lower. 35%, 32%, 28%. Each drop tightened the knot in their chests. At last, the comms unit sparked with static, then a voice unlike any they had ever heard filled the bridge. It was deep, rough-edged, and the translator struggled to smooth the harsh syllables. Attention vessel Gentle Current. This is Admiral Kane of the Terran Defense Command. Your distress call has been received. We are initiating an immediate rescue. Transmit all ship specifications and medical needs of your crew. Assistance is en route. For a moment, silence, then the bridge erupted in cheers. Relief swept through. Then like a tidal wave, rescue was real. But Vel replayed the words in his head, troubled. Terran Defense Command. Not Science Corps, not Exploration Service. Defense. Military. Finn leaned closer, voice low. Captain, did you notice the title? He said. Admiral Kane. That's a military title. Vel felt a chill run through his body. What kind of rescue ship would be commanded by a military officer? What kind of civilization put their military in charge of rescue operations? But the life support was down to 24% now, and there was no time for second thoughts. They had called for help from the Deathworlders, and now that help was coming. All they could do was wait and hope that they had not made a terrible mistake. Outside the ship, the stars continued to shine coldly in the darkness, keeping their secrets about what was racing toward them through the void. Deep inside the Terran Defense Command headquarters on Earth, alarms suddenly filled the air with their sharp, urgent sound. Admiral Ka was in his office reviewing reports from the outer colonies when his communication office burst through the door. Sir, we have an emergency transmission from unknown aliens, Lieutenant Ross said, breathing hard from running. They're asking for rescue. Kane stood up quickly, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the room. His gray hair and weathered face showed the marks of 30 years in the military. Aliens? Are you certain it's not a trick? The transmission is unlike anything we've seen before, sir. The language patterns, the technology signatures, it's definitely not human. And sir. Ross paused, looking worried. The bioskins they sent show their dying life support failure in space. Kane followed Ross to the main command center, where dozens of officers worked at glowing screens. The large wall display showed a map of nearby space with Asmo blinking dot, marking the location of the alien ship. Play the message, Kane ordered. The speakers filled the room with a strange musical voice. Emergency transmission to planet Earth. This is Captain Vel of the research vessel Gentle Current. We are stranded in space with critical life support failure. Kane listened to the entire message, his expression growing more serious with each word. When it finished, he turned to his intelligence officer, Colonel Reed. Reed was a shorter man with scars across his left cheek from a battle with space pirates 5 years earlier. "What do we know about this area of space, Colonel?" Kane asked. Reed pulled up detailed star charts on his screen. "Sir, that's the Kepler 442 region. It's been getting dangerous lately. 3 different alien species have been building military bases there: the Vorik Empire, the Hegemony Coalition, and the Real Confederacy. They're all expanding toward human space." "Could this be a trap?" Kane asked, studying the coordinates. "Bait to lure one of our ships into an ambush." Reed zoomed in on the biological readings from the alien ship. The life signs look genuine. "Sir, we're seeing 43 different biosignatures, and several appear to be children based on their smaller size and higher metabolic rates. If it's a fake, it's incredibly detailed." Kane was quiet for a moment, thinking he had learned to be suspicious. During his long military career, too many good soldiers had died walking into traps. But the readings showed children dying in space, and that changed everything. "What's our closest ship to their position?" he asked. "The Iron Hammer, sir," replied Captain Torres, the fleet coordinator. She was a tough woman in her 40s who had worked her way up from enlisted ranks. It just finished patrol near the Centauri colonies. Captain Morrison commanding with a full crew of 800. Kane nodded. The Iron Hammer was perfect for this mission. It was one of Earth's newest Dreadnought-class warships, 2 kilometers long and armed with the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built. More importantly, it had excellent medical facility. Team is already analyzing their biological data. "What's your assessment, Captain?" "They're not the man, but they're definitely dying. Dr. Park says we can adapt our life support systems to help them. The ship appears to be a science vessel." "Number." "Weapon signatures that we can detect." Kane made his decision. "Captain Morrison, you are hereby ordered to proceed immediately to the coordinates and render assistance to the alien vessel. Full rescue protocols." "Understood, sir." "What are our rules of engagement if this turns out to be hostile?" "Protect yourself and your crew first. But remember, if this is genuine, we're about to make first contact with a new alien species. How we handle this could affect Earth's future relations with them." Morrison nodded seriously. "We'll be ready for anything, Admiral." Estimated travel time at maximum hyperspace speed is 18 hours. "Make it 17 if you can, Captain. Those children don't have much time." As the connection ended, Kane turned to address his staff. "I want full monitoring of this situation. If the Iron Hammer runs into trouble, I want to know immediately. Also, get me a line to the President. She needs to know about this." Colonel Reed stepped forward. "Sir, shouldn't we contact the Galactic Council about this? Standard procedure for first contact situations." Kane's expression darkened. "The Council, Reed. They've been ignoring our request for membership for 20 years. 3 of their member species are building military bases in space we consider ours. As far as I'm concerned, this is between us and these. What did they call themselves?" "A Quar, sir, from the research vessel Gentle Current." "Right. This is between us and the Aquari. The Council doesn't get a say." Meanwhile, aboard the Iron Hammer, Captain Morrison was preparing his ship for the rescue mission. The massive dreadnought came alive with activity as the crew prepared for hyperspace jump. "All hands. This is the captain." Morrison's voice echoed through the ship's corridors. "We are responding to an alien distress call. This is a rescue mission, but we're going into potentially hostile space. All departments prepare for possible combat while maintaining readiness for humanitarian operations." In the medical bay, Dr. Park was working with his team to understand the alien biological data. "Their respiratory system is completely different from ours," he explained to his nurses. "They process oxygen through what look like gills as well as Lungs, we'll need to adjust our atmospheric mix. Chief Engineer Blake was modifying the ship's life support systems. If we need to take 43 aliens aboard, we'll have to expand our environmental controls, she told her team. I want portable life support units ready for immediate deployment. In the Marine quarters, Sergeant Major Stone was briefing his soldiers. We don't know what these aliens look like or how they'll react to us, he said to the assembled troops. Remember, this is a rescue mission. We go in ready to fight, but hoping to help. As the Iron Hammer entered hyperspace, its hull glowing with the energy of faster-than-light travel, the crew settled in for the 17-hour journey. None of them knew that they were about to make contact with a species that thought of them as dangerous. Monsters from a death world. Admiral Kane remained in the command center, watching the ship's progress on star map. In a few hours, humanity would either gain new friends among Festers or face a new enemy. Either way, the galaxy was about to learn that humans did not abandon those who called for help, no matter who they were or where they came from. The countdown had begun. Aboard the Gentle Current, the situation was getting worse by the hour. Captain Vell watched the life support readings drop to 15% while his crew grew weaker and weaker. The 5 younglings were barely conscious now, their small bodies struggling to breathe the thin air. Captain whispered Navigator Finn, his voice so weak it was hard to hear. The humans, how much longer? Vell checked his timer. 2 more hours. We just have to hold on for 2 more hours. Dr. Kef was moving slowly between the injured crew members, doing what she could with their failing medical equipment. Several Ukwari had already fallen unconscious. The ship felt like a tomb, quiet except for the labored breathing of the survivors. Suddenly, the ship's sensors began beeping with an urgent alarm. Vell forced himself to stand and stumbled to the navigation console. What he saw on screen made his blood run cold. By the deep waters, he gasped, "Finn, look at this." A massive object was approaching through hyperspace. Something so large that the ship's computer was having trouble calculating its exact size. The energy readings were unlike anything in the Aquari database. What is that thing? Finn asked, pulling himself up to see the display. Before Vell could answer, space itself seemed to tear open in front of them. A swirling vortex of light and energy appeared, growing larger and larger. Then, like a sea monster rising from the depths, the human ship emerged from hyperspace. The Iron Hammer was a nightmare made real. It was enormous, at least 40 times larger than the Gentle Current. Its hull was black as deep space, covered in armor plating that looked thick enough to stop asteroids. Rows of weapon imp placements jutted out from its sides like the spines of some deadly creature. Missile launchers, energy cannons, and devices that the Aquari sensors couldn't even identify covered every surface. The front of the ship was shaped like the head of a predator, with sensor arrays that looked like glowing red eyes. Along its sides, Vell could see the scars of battle, places where the armor had been damaged and repaired, telling stories of violent conflicts among the stars. "This is Waiton's word, our call for help," Dr. K whispered in horror. "This is a ship of war, not rescue." Their Hammer moved closer, and now they could see smaller details that made it even more frightening. Gun turrets tracked their movement automatically. Launch bays stood ready to release fighter craft. The entire vessel hummed with barely contained power. Then the communication system crackled to life with a deep, rough voice that sent chills through every Aquari on the bridge. "Alien vessel, Gentle Current. This is Admiral Kane of the Terran. Navy, we are responding to your distress call. Prepare to be boarded for rescue operations." The voice paused and they could hear other humans talking in the background. Then the Admiral continued, "Do not make any sudden movements or attempt to activate any weapon systems. We are here to help, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Captain Noy. Vell's hands shook as he reached for the communication controls. His people had called for rescue, but they had summoned something that looked more like death itself. Still, with his crew dying around him, he had no choice. "Human vessel," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is Captain Vel. We have no weapons. We are a science ship. We surrender ourselves to your mercy." There was a long pause from the human ship. Then the Admiral's voice returned. But it sounded confused. "Surrender, Captain Vel. We're not here to conquer you. We received your distress call and came to rescue your crew. Do you need medical assistance?" Vel blinked in surprise. These warriors with their massive ship of destruction claimed they were here to help. It seemed impossible. In all the stories he had heard about Deathworld species, they were savage creatures who fought and killed without mercy. Admiral Kane Vel said carefully, "We are dying. Our life support has failed and we have injured crew members. But your ship, it is built for war." Another paused. Then a different voice came over the radio, calmer, more gentle. "Captain Vel, this is Captain Morrison of the Iron Hammer. Yes, our ship is designed for combat, but we also carry full medical and rescue facilities. We have doctors, life support, equipment, and everything needed to save your crew. May we come aboard to help you?" Dr. K grabbed Vel's arm. "Captain, the younglings don't have much time left. Whatever these humans are, we have to trust them." Vel looked around at his dying crew and made his decision. "Captain Morrison, you have permission to board our vessel. Please help us." "Understood. Preparing rescue teams now. We'll have you and your crew safe in 30 minutes. The Iron Hammer moved closer, and the Aquar could see airlocks opening along its side. Smaller craft began emerging. Sleek shuttles that looked fast and dangerous, but also equipped with medical symbols and rescue equipment. As the first human shuttle approached their ship, the crew of the Gentle Current huddled together in fear. Through the viewports, they could see figures in powered armor moving inside the shuttle. The humans looked huge and threatening even in their rescue gear. "They look like soldiers," Finn whispered. "Because they are soldiers," Vel replied quietly. "We called for help from a species of warriors." The docking clamps engaged with a loud clang that echoed through both ships. Then they heard the hiss of airlocks connecting and equalizing pressure. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor outside Thebridge. Footsteps that belonged to creatures much larger and heavier than any Aquari. The bridge door slid open and the first human stepped inside. The creature was tall, much taller than any off the Aquari. It wore powered armor that made it look even more massive and threatening. The armor was military green with scratches and dents that showed it had been used in real battles. A helmet covered the human's face with glowing displays and sensor equipment that gave it an alien robotic appearance. But then something unexpected happened. The human stopped just inside the doorway and slowly reached up to remove its helmet. As Thelmet came off, the Aquari saw their first human face. It was the face of a female with short brown hair and kind eyes. Her skin was pale, and there were small scars on her cheek that spoke, including the 5 younglings who were now playing games with off-duty human crew members in the ship's recreation area. As Vel made his way to Admiral Kane's office, he marveled at how the humans had transformed part of their worship into a comfortable living space for his people. The corridors that once seemed cold and threatening now felt welcoming. Human crew members nodded politely as he passed, and some even attempted to greet him in broken Aquar. The door to the Admiral's ready room slid open with a soft hiss. Admiral Kane stood looking out a large window at the stars, his hands clasped behind his back. The room was simple but functional, a desk, chairs, and walls covered with star charts and what appeared to be military honors. Captain Vel Kane said, turning around with a slight smile. "Dr. Park tells me are making excellent recovery. Please sit down, we need to talk." Vel settled into a chair that had been specially adjusted for his physiology. "Admiral Kane, I must thank you again. Your people saved our lives when they had no reason to help us. Kane sat across from him, his expression bumming. More serious. Captain, you said in your distress call that you're part of the Galactic Council. Tell me about this council. The council is a union of peaceful species from across the galaxy, Vel explained. We explore space, share knowledge, and help civilizations grow and prosper. There are over 200 member species, all dedicated to science, art, and peaceful cooperation. Kane's eyes narrowed slightly. And Earth? What does your council know about Earth? Vel felt uncomfortable under the Admiral's steady gaze. I checked our database after we were rescued. Earth is listed as a restricted world. The classification says it's a death world and contact is forbidden. Forbiddens? Kane repeated, his voice growing cold. And why is that? Their cords say that death world species are too violent and dangerous to be trusted. That they only know war and destruction. Vel paused, looking around the room that belonged to these supposedly savage beings who had risked everything to save his people. But the records are clearly wrong. Kane stood up and walked to a wall display, showing a map of local space. With a touch of his hand, the map zoomed in on a sector near Earth. Captain, do you recognize this region? Vel studied the display and felt his heart sink. That's where we were stranded. The Kepler 442 region, exactly. And do you see these installations? Kane highlighted several structures on the map. Military bases built by 3 different council member species. Theveric Empire, the Hegemony Coalition, and the Real Confederacy. The implications hit Vel like a physical blow. They're expanding toward human space. More than that, Kane said grimly. They're cutting off our trade routes, threatening our colonies, and building up forces for what looks like an invasion. All this while your council maintains that we're too dangerous to even talk to. Vel stared at the map in horror. The council. Species he knew as peaceful explorers were acting like conquerors in this region of space. I had no idea. Our exploration missions are always in the opposite direction from this sector. Of course they are. Kane said can't have peaceful council members seeing their military expansion, can we? Captain Morrison entered the room carrying a data pad. Admiral, we just received intelligence from our scout ships. The Vorak are moving a battle fleet toward the Proxima system. That's where we have 50,000 colonists. Kane nodded grimly. How long until they arrive? 6 days, sir. Vel felt sick. The Proxima system wasn't far from where they had found him. If the Vorak were moving a battle fleet there, it meant they were preparing for serious military action against human space. Admiral Fell said quietly, there must be some mistake. The Council promotes peace. They would never approve of military aggression. Kane sat back down and looked directly at Vel. Captain, let me ask you something. In all your years with the Council, how many species have you encountered that evolved on harsh worlds, planets with dangerous predators, extreme weather, or scarce resources? Bell thought about it and realized he couldn't name a single one. None. All Council species come from peaceful garden worlds with abundant resources. Exactly. Your Council isn't promoting peace and it's maintaining control. They've created a galaxy where only soft, gentle species are allowed to participate, while keeping out anyone who might challenge their authority. The truth was becoming clear to Vel, and he didn't like what he was seeing. But they genuinely believe that Death World species are dangerous. Are we dangerous? Kane asked. Your crew has been aboard this ship for 3 days. Have we threatened you? Demanded payment for the rescue? Tried to steal your technology or interrogate you for information? Vel shook his head. No, your people have been nothing but kin to us. Captain Vel Morrison interjected. Your younglings have been playing with our off-duty crew. Yesterday, I saw Sergeant Martinez teaching them human games while they taught her a quar. Does that sound like the behavior of savage warriors? Vel felt ashamed. Everything he had been taught about Deathers was not just wrong. It was deliberately misleading. What do you want from me? Kane leaned forward. We're taking you and your crew to Council Station Harmony. It's the nearest diplomatic outpost. You can return to your people and resume your life, but I want you to think about what you've seen here. The Council needs to know the truth about humans, Bell said slowly. Does it? Kane challenged. 3 Council species are about Totak hour. Colonies, when you report back, will your superiors listen to your story about peaceful humans? Or will they assume we brainwashed you or threatened you into saying good things about us? The question hit Vel because Helready knew the answer. The Council bureaucrats would never believe that their fundamental assumptions about Deathwarders were wrong. They would assume he had been corrupted or coerced. There's something else, Morrison added. We intercepted communications from the Vorik fleet. They're not just planning to attack our colonies. They're planning to frame us for attacking first. They want to make it look like the Dangaraus Deatward started a war. Vel felt the weight of terrible knowledge settling on his shoulders. The galaxy was about to see a conflict that would pit the peaceful council against the supposedly savage humans. But he knew the truth. The humans weren't the aggressors. What can I do? He asked. Kane smiled, but it wasn't a happy expression. That's up to you, Captain. You can return to your people and tell them what you've seen. Maybe some of them will listen, or you can stay silent and let events unfold as they will. Vel looked out the window at the stars. In 6 days, human colonists would face attack from a Council species fleet. The humans will defend themselves, and the Council would point to that defense as proof of their violent nature. Unless someone who had seen the truth was willing to stand up and speak it. Admiral Vel said finally, I think we need to make a stop before you take us to Council Station Harmony. We're the Proxima system. I need to see what happens when the Vorik arrive. I need to witness the truth with my own eyes so that when I testify before the Council, they cannot dismiss my words. Kane and Morrison exchanged glances, then Kane nodded slowly. Very well, Captain. But understand what you're about to see may be the beginning of a war that will reshape the galaxy. As the Iron Hammer changed course toward human space, Vel realized that his simple rescue mission had become something much larger. He was about to become the bridge between 2 very different views of what civilization should be. The stars held their secrets, but soon the galaxy would learn that sometimes the greatest warriors make the greatest protectors.